thank you all for taking the time to come along. It's an important topic, and thank you, Jacqueline, for being with us. You're always a popular speaker with our group, so thanks for coming along. And we are talking today about life coaching, whether it's going to a life coach or becoming your own life coach. And Jacqueline, I'm not going to talk through your whole bio because it's on our website. I think everyone knows how great you are at your job. But I will say that I know that you're one of the best life coaches in the UK. You're highly sought after. So we're very happy and lucky to have you with us on a Saturday evening. And I really do appreciate your time. So before we start, I just want to say, I was chatting with Jacqueline earlier, and if you feel that you have questions as we go throughout, please put them in chat, or feel free, if you want to just put your hands up and come off mute to ask a question, I'll kind of come to you and ask you to do that. But it is an interactive session. We try and make the sessions as interactive as we can. So please feel free to do that, and Jacqueline will be happy to answer your question. So let's kick it off. Right. What kind of issues are life coaches good for? Now, I'm not talking now about people who are looking to coach themselves, but the people who really want to go to a life coach and be seen. I mean, what kind of people come to you, and what kind of issues are you looking at?
First of all, thanks for having me. I just want to start there. And I think actually the last time I did this view, we were all in lockdown. I think it was a lockdown conversation, or we'd just come out of lockdown, something like that. Like, it was definitely during the whole COVID debacle, and how nice just to take a second and think, gosh, we all got through that, all of us sitting here today, you know, aren't we lucky? We were ones of the lucky ones, and just nice to take a minute and think about that, actually. Anyway, so who goes to a life coach? It's such a good question, because people always used to say that to me when I started 20 years ago. People were like, what's a life coach for, and what do I need that for? And I always say that a coach is really for, if you're struggling with something, or you're stuck with something, or you're confused about something, then that's what a coach comes in for. And where you have, if you're playing golf and you want someone to teach you and become an amazing golfer, you get a golf coach. If you've got you know, if you're tennis and you want to become better at tennis, then you get a tennis coach. So why would we not do that also for our life? So it can come in on many different areas.
I always thought that people go to life coaches when they have something really serious to deal with. That's the kind of impression I have, and maybe I'm wrong. So whether it's they want to change in career, or they have like a big relationship issue, you know, they're attracting the wrong type of people into their lives, or they just want to completely change their lives. And I always thought that kind of going to a life coach at that point gives you the structure and the accountability to see yourself through making the changes to better your life. But am I wrong about that?
No, you're not wrong about that. And I think sometimes, you know, it's just interesting, isn't it, that it's a very English thing that we sort of need to have a problem in order to go and speak to someone about it. And we have to have a big problem before we reach out to get help. But, you know, I think it's important that we reach out the minute something starts to come into our mind of like, I keep attracting the same guy, or I don't feel confident in meetings, or, you know, I know that I feel a bit stuck. Like, the minute we start to have those sorts of thoughts, it's a really good time to reach out and get a bit of help. Like, it doesn't have to be desperate and huge for us to do it. But I do think that's an English mentality.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'm hoping it's changing. I mean, the whole idea of self-development, I guess if you're in the States, it's part of your, well, not everybody, but a lot of people take it seriously as like an investment that they make in their lives to constantly develop themselves. I feel like that's come over more over here now. I feel like increasingly people over here are looking at self-development as something positive rather than for people who have problems or weak people or crazy people, you know. Do you agree?
I do. And I always think that actually, you know, our mentality around that, I think, isn't correct. Like, to me, the strongest people are the people that have coaches by their side that help them mentally understand things in ways that most people wouldn't understand. So I'm very much a seeker of that kind of stuff, of like, how can I be I feel like a lot of these words that are thrown around, like, how can I be my best self? Like, you know, it's a bit like, oh God, yawn, you know, but actually, if I'm repeating patterns where I'm doing things that aren't sitting well with me, then why wouldn't I want to better myself in that way?
Yeah, so true, so true. And I think the first step is understanding that you have a pattern, right? Because a lot of people don't really understand that. They just see that they have the same issue come up over and over and over, and they don't really understand why it's happening to them. So I kind of mentioned in the newsletter something about a victim mindset. And I think that that a lot of people who aren't really aware of their own patterns fall into that victim mindset. They're kind of like, why me? Why is this happening to me all the time? Whereas if you, I guess, have a coach by your side, I like the way you say that, have a coach by your side, it allows you to really kind of, the coach to shine the light on those patterns, right? Is that kind of,
yeah, I mean, I do. And I think, you know, with my coaching, it's slightly different in the way that I teach people how to step into what I call emotional adulthood. So I'm by your side, but only for a bit. I'm by your side whilst I teach you how to think differently and what to do with your thinking, how to understand yourself better, etc., etc. And then for me, I want to open my door and go, bye-bye, like, off you go. You've learned the learnings and you should go and put that into the big wide world. So it's like, it's the same as sort of accountability. Like, I'm not here to mummy anybody. I'm here to show people, like, hey, your thinking is a bit skew with here and here and here, and you've got limiting beliefs around things here, and these things might not be true here, and this is how we change it and do it differently. So I would be wary of, you know, someone, especially if they say to me in an initial consultation, like, you know, I'm looking for accountability. I'm like, well, you're an adult, you should be giving yourself accountability. That's not anyone else's job to do for you, right? And maybe you need it in the beginning when you start the work and you understand, okay, God, I've got to do some work here, here, and here. Then you've got to sort of check in with someone on that. But you shouldn't have to have someone, you know, that you need to be accountable for. Like, what's going on there and why?
Well, there you go. There's another pattern that has already emerged. But I think a lot of people do have that, where they're kind of set homework by the coach so that they can make sure things, you know, they can implement certain strategies or practices.
I don't mind that in the beginning. But not forever, right? Like, you're meant to do your homework, learn from it, and then move on, right? You can't be coming back as an adult constantly saying to someone, oh, I've done this thing and here you go, right? Like, you have to elevate each time and grow each time and learn. And that to me is the aim of really good coaching, which is not great. You know, people always used to say, well, how do you grow a business like that? And it's because fundamentally you're not getting people in to, like, build your bank balance. You're getting people in to teach them what to do, to help them change their lives. And then more people will come anyway. Because it's good stuff that you're throwing out there, right? So to teach people how to be an adult within themselves, an emotional adult, is really important, because this is the stuff we're not taught at school, right? Like, no one said, hey, this is how you learn to manage your feelings, ever, to me.
Well, I don't think to anyone. I think maybe now there is an element of that in schooling. Maybe it's gone to the other way, but there is an element of that going on. But certainly, yes, our generation, we weren't told that, and we were actually told to suppress our feelings. And I, you know, that whole British term, which is on mugs and flags and everything, which says keep calm and what is it? Keep calm and keep get on with it, or I forgot what it is.
I quite like that. Keep calm and carry on. I quite
Keep
like
on,
it.
carry on. Yeah, you see, that for me is I don't personally like that, because I like the calm part, but it's almost like, let's just bury it. That's the way I interpret that. Let's just like kind of bury it and continue.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you see, that's a really good conversation starter, because how you interpret that and how I interpret that are totally different, right?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of understanding yourself better, because most people at this point would be taking that personally. I can't believe she said that in front of all these people, that she doesn't agree with me, and what might they think, and blah, 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 and on it goes. When you've gone through coaching, you're like, that's great that we've got different opinions. Let's explore it, right?
Yeah, that's nice. I'd like to have a side conversation with you about why you think it's great and why I don't.
Yeah.
But I think it's a lot about, okay, it's just my pet hate, that term. I don't like it. But it is that Britishness of just get on with it, forget about what causes it, suppress it, get on with it, which I'm okay with getting on with it, but we have to kind of sometimes dig below to see what's underneath it. That's just my interpretation. But hey, I'm not the UK's leading life coach, so I'll keep my mouth shut. Okay, let's move on about this whole thing about being your best self, because it is a bit of a cliche, and I wish I could come up with a better term, but I think it really works, because I feel like something I've always been interested in self-development, but as I've got older, I've become even more interested, because I think we're an ongoing works in progress, and I think people who think that they've perfected themselves, they have a lot more work to do just by thinking that. So I think it's more about, peeling the onion, going below. What's your view on that?
Well, I mean, I like the idea of being our best selves, and I like it if we're putting the work in, but I also don't want to go to like, oh yeah, perfection. I am at my best self. Like what? Like none of us are ever going to, get to this space of perfection and the best. And I just think it's great for us to, do our work and be the best that we can be with what we've got, right? And that last bit's really important, because if we haven't got a lot, then we can only do our best in that capacity. But if we've got more and we learn more, then we can do better with that, right?
Right.
So it's all relative, is what I'm trying to say. But I do think that it is our responsibility to live a life that is, calm and peaceful and comfortable, no matter what is going on around us. That's our responsibility, to take control of learning about our minds. Our minds are so powerful. Our brains are brilliant, and we aren't taught how to control them and manage them properly. And I think when we are taught that, we start to live a very different life. When we understand about our thoughts and our feelings and our actions and our outcomes, and understanding why we think what we think or do what we do, it's very powerful. So the more we can understand that, the better life we live.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. So in order to strive towards becoming your best self, continuously improve yourself, in order to be in that place of, as you say, a place of calm, a place of control of your life, all of those things, are not to be too volatile in your life with your emotions and your feelings. What can we do ourselves? And I want you to, like, at this point, because I know you're a life coach and you have your clients, but you also have something called the life school. Okay, so can we talk a little bit, life class, sorry, can we talk a little bit about why you introduced the life class and what it is, please?
So I really love the life class. So I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've worked with over, I think, about 9,000 people now. And I always wanted to sort of help people that may not be like fully ready, but want to sort of dip their toe in. and also people where if I can do this stuff online, then I can reach more people. So the life class runs 2 courses. The first course is called the foundation course, and that is basically the foundations of what I think people need to know when it comes to learning about self-development. And it's a six module course, and when you join up you get like notes and videos and worksheets, and it's simple in the way that it teaches you the things you need to know, and you go through it in your own time, in your own way, you know, in your pajamas. You can like be listening to things and understanding things about yourself. And I like that idea for people that want to, as I say, sort of dip their toe in to what is self-development about, what is coaching about, and what should I learn about myself. It's also got another course called the Certified Coach course, which is actually the course that started the whole thing, which was teaching people to do what I do as a life coach. And it's called the Certified course, and that's an 8-week course. And that is also an incredibly powerful course. It's for people who want to train to be a life coach, become certified at the end of it, build a business at the end of it. And all of that is sort of all the tools and the techniques that I use. And lots of people that did that course loved it and said to me, you know, look, this is great. And my mum wants to do it, but she doesn't want to be a life coach. Or this was great, and I told my friends about it, but they don't want to be an actual life coach. So that's why the foundation course then got built afterwards. But I love it because it's online, and, you know, online, especially when it's like we're all doing right now, this is so nice that we can all be, I don't know, making dinner, sitting down in our pajamas, whatever it might be, we can all sit together and have these sorts of conversations. Technology does bring us some really good things. So when it comes to my work, it was a way of getting it out to more and more people. Same as the book, right? Like more people can understand themselves with that.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't bring your book. I haven't really got my act together.
That's okay. It's okay.
I've talked about it before, but I just want to remind everyone in case I didn't get it.
Okay. I'd love to say that again.
I was gonna say, if you can just tell us a little bit about your book, because there's practical exercises in your book at the end of each chapter. So yeah.
The book is called How to Do You, and it's chapters, which is how I wanted it to be. It was just chapters of different things that people struggle with. So you can go to the chapter if you struggle with anxiety, or struggle with food and body image, or you struggle with relationships. You can look at the chapter and learn about it, see what my clients have experienced, do your own worksheet at the end of it. And it's very, you know, it's written simply for us all to understand it. You know, I'm not academic in any way. I can't do maths. My handwriting is appalling. I'm not very good at writing. I'm not very good at lots of different things when it comes to academia. So for me, it's got to be very, very simple for me to understand things. And that's sort of how I put my book together. It was simple, but it was effective. Like, people will get help for themselves just by reading that.
Right. And maybe you can just give us an example of one of the kind of practical exercises that you cover in the book or in the class.
Well, one of the things I always talk about is like getting our thoughts down on paper, which sounds kind of easy to do, but isn't always easy to do. And I think a lot of the time we spend a lot of our time unconscious and unaware as to what we're actually thinking. And now in the beginning, people go, oh, that's not true, I overthink. But actually, you're not really aware and conscious of what actually is going on in your head. So I like to say pen and paper, old school pen and paper is one of my favorite things in the beginning. So simply, if you're having a bad day or you're struggling with something, to literally get your pen and paper out and start to write down what's actually going on in your head. And to do it in a way, journaling is great, but I really love bullet points. Like, if I bullet point what's happening in my head, what is it? I'm worried about, for example, I'm worried about, Christmas. Will I get the food on time? What happens if this one rows with that one? Like, when you start to put it down in bullet points, you get a really clear idea of what's going on. And that is like the first step to anything, because then you've got an opportunity to say to yourself, okay, are any of these thoughts true? Probably not. Like, do I know they're going to happen? Probably not. And then the best one is, if my friend came along and told me all of this stuff was going on for her or him, what would I say to her or him? And so already you've got 3 or 4 different things there, which sound very simple, Stella. That sounds like a very simple thing I've just said in, 3 minutes? But that can take days to really start to understand and get into. So that's a lot of information for anyone here listening to even start to try to do. But it's the beginning of a really powerful sort of gateway into understanding yourself better. It all starts and ends in the mind.
How often do you think people should do that, to like look at that pattern?
In the beginning, I would say to my clients, do it for as much as you can. Anything that's bothering you, do it as much as you can. If you need to take a notepad and paper with you in the day, do it. And every hour, try it and see.
It's really the awareness of your thoughts, right? It's being aware of what's popping into your head and that's affecting your mood or your emotions.
Awareness is everything.
Yeah,
if you haven't got awareness, you've got nothing, right? I mean, nothing.
Yeah. But so many people believe that their thoughts are facts. And it's so interesting. The other night I was lying in bed, and I'm very open during these sessions, I share a lot, but I don't usually have these kind of thoughts, but I got myself into a tizzy about my elderly father and what would happen to him if he was left alone. I mean, I have no idea where my mind went there, but it went there. And then I was observing myself having this thought. And then from then, it immediately went to another negative thought about something completely different. Again, something that I wouldn't normally think. I was feeling a little bit unwell at the time, so it's probably a lot to do with that too. But I was watching my thoughts, and I was watching it basically jump from one negative or one pessimistic thing to another. And I was like, gosh, it's so easy to go to end up in that kind of rabbit hole where you're literally jumping from one negative thought to another. And not being aware of it, and then because I'm well versed in this kind of work, I kind of had a little word with myself, and I said, wow, I actually convinced myself that my thoughts were true, but they weren't true at all. They were just conjecture. They were just thoughts. Has anyone else you can put it in chat. I'm just going to open this out a little bit, please. Has anyone else had that similar kind of thought process? And does anyone find themselves believing their thoughts as facts? Just put it down in chat or speak if you want. We've got a very quiet group here tonight. Anyone there? Any ideas? Yeah, definitely. Okay, Diane. Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting thought, like even that, and I love that. Like that way of saying that my world was falling apart yesterday. It's like that is what happens in our head, right? Our head is like literally gives us this terrible, drastic, deep, negative, like my world is falling apart. And it's just so interesting, isn't it, of how we do that in our heads, with there's something that we could sort of be singing like, oh yeah, my world was falling apart yesterday. Like, we've got to be careful with that stuff, because when we start to think like that, the energy that goes out is not cool either, right? So it's like when people say, I'm starving, and I go, what, literally starving? And they go, well, no, of course not literally, but like, be careful with that stuff. If we're becoming aware, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I might just be a bit hungry, right? And we can just take the edge off of things just with some small changes of our words.
So our language is super important then, because then we start believing our language as well. or
Language is incredibly important, incredibly important.
I mean, I used to do this years ago, and until I again became aware of it, and I stopped myself. You know, when you make a mistake, or you do something that you wish you hadn't done, and you just say, "You're such an idiot, Stella. Don't do that," you know. And I used to do that years ago, and I've trained myself not to do that now, because you actually start believing you're an idiot, don't you? You actually, like,
And it's
the more you say it to yourself, the more you start to believe it. So our words are so super powerful.
they are, and it's like, think about it. You know, if I had done that thing, you know, you would never say, Jacqueline, you're such an idiot. You just wouldn't do it. And it's like, I know that, again, we talk about this a lot, about, you know, loving kindness and all this kind of thing. But especially as I've got older, that stuff has become more and more important to me. Like, I'm not willing to say that to myself today. I'm not, because it's not kind. If I'm not going to say it to you, Stella, I'm not going to say it to me. And it's a huge, important thing for us to be thinking about, of how we talk to ourselves, our inner critic, you know, in our mind, what is going on. It's just not acceptable.
Mm. And so moving back to kind of life coaching, or because is life coaching, whether it's the life class or whether it's, you know, seeing a coach, does it have to result in an action? Is it actionable? So
In what way do you mean, is it actionable?
So for example, I want to stop talking to myself like this, in order for me then to believe in myself to get this done, to take this action. Or have I taken it too far? Is it actually about achieving something at the end, or is it more around achieving peace of mind?
Well, think about it. When you've got peace of mind, you can achieve anything you want. So I never go in under the guise of changing an action, because those actions are going to change anyway. It's actually about changing your thinking, because it's your thinking that generates how you feel, and it's your feelings that generate your actions. So actions are like right down the end of the tree. It's your thinking at the top of the tree. So when we change our thinking, we automatically change our feelings, actions, and outcomes. But changing actions without changing our thoughts isn't really going to get us anywhere. It's much harder to change an action and keep that stuck, you know, to stick to that action if our thoughts aren't correct. You can go to the gym, right? But if you aren't thinking the right thoughts that are going to get you there and keep you there, then that's not going to work. It's got to come from having really strong thoughts in your head that make you feel really motivated and good, that then make you take the action.
Right. So the work is very much on the thoughts and the thought process, and then from that, as you say, the actions come about. So
yeah, they can't not. They can't not.
Okay. So one of the tips that you have is writing down your thoughts, right? So throughout the day, every day, until you see the pattern. Yeah. And then when you see the pattern, it's quite an interesting process to do. I've done it, because you have no idea what you actually see it written down over a period of days, when you're looking back and you're like, wow.
Your sound is going, Stella. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
So, yeah. One of the tips is to write things down, but it's not always about a pattern. It's not about necessarily finding a pattern. It's about understanding what you're actually choosing to think.
Right.
So there might not be a pattern. I mean, the pattern will be that you're negative. We could start there, that's for sure. But there may not be an actual pattern. Like, I don't want people thinking, okay, I've written all these things and I can't find a pattern. It might not be about that. It might just be about writing things down and saying, oh my gosh, I never knew I spoke to myself like that. Or why am I telling myself this when really it's that, you know? So we get more awareness around what's actually happening in our head when we get it out our head and onto paper.
Right. Okay. So that's one tip. Do you have any other good ones for us that we can we can try. And then we can talk a little bit more about the life class as well, actually. So,
there was a chat here just now, just popped up. Hang on.
yes.
So how does writing it down help resolve a worry? Which is a very good question. So a worry is a thought that this person is thinking. So writing down what the thought is that's creating the feeling of worry is very important. What is it that I'm thinking that's making me feel that? And so that's how it will help you unravel how it will help you. So we write it down and we say, I might not have the right clothes on tonight at this party, which would make you feel worried. And then you would start to say, well, okay, if I feel worried, what am I going to do? I might cancel the party. And what's the outcome? I ruin my own evening. So the thought itself is the problem. So you've written it down, you've got it in front of you, and you would ask yourself that question. It's like, is that thought helping me? And it's very likely to be, no, it's not helping me. And we would ask ourselves, well, then, if I want to change how I feel, i.e. not feel worried, I want to feel calm, or maybe even excited about going out, how could I think about this differently? And that's where this work comes in, of learning how to do that in an instant, so that you naturally go into the neutral way of thinking instead of the negative way of thinking.
Okay, can I take another example of that? If you take my example, I'm worried about my elderly father's health. How would I resolve that? Because there's nothing I can do about it, right?
Okay, so that it's the thought that's creating the problem, right? The problem is my father's health. And the thought is, you know, I'm worried he's going to get worse, right? I'm frightened he's going to get worse.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have that thought, because of course, if that's the thought that you are having, then that's relative at the time, of course. Except that a thought like that is not going to help you feel anything other than worry and anxiety, probably, and fear.
Yeah.
And all of that's normal, right? And when you feel those feelings, you're going to take actions which might be negative. Maybe you're going to eat a box of chocolates because you're so worried. And maybe the outcome is, you know, oh, I don't know, I've gone off my diet, or I've ruined my evening, or whatever it might be. And again, all of that comes from the thought, like, I'm worried about my father's health. Now, a thought like that is not right or wrong. It just probably doesn't make you feel feelings that you want to feel. Would you agree or disagree?
Agree.
Okay. So feelings are our choice, right? How we feel fundamentally does come down to a choice. Now, that doesn't mean immediately. It just means at some point when you're ready to not feel that anxiety and that fear, you might want to change how you think. So I would hand it back to you and say, when you're ready to change that feeling of worry and fear, let's try and find a different way to think about it. Now, you're not going to go into, oh, yes, I'm fine about my father's health, because that would be, excuse me for swearing, but fucking weird, right? But we would come up with a thought together that felt a little calmer.
Right.
That is the work, in quotes, that we do. And when we use those sorts of examples and we practice and we practice and we practice, as I said, it then gets into a second nature, so that you just don't choose thoughts like that, because it just won't work for you anymore.
Right. I think though that was a really good explanation of it. Thank you. On whether it's the example of something like, am I going to look fine at this party, right through to a bigger life worry, you know, that most of us will go through at some point with someone in our lives or something like that. So but the process is the same, and that's what's so interesting about it.
The process is the same, yeah, because
Yeah.
fundamentally we do get choices. Again, like no one taught us this at school, but we do get choices as to how we want to feel. And that can rile people up. They can be like, what do you mean? That thing is going to make me anxious. But actually, the more you understand how this work, is played out, you realize that you do have choices and you don't have to feel that way if you don't want to.
Yeah. And how about, sorry, I want to come back to the live class. So with the live class, do you do it as a group online, or do you do it by yourself and then come together as a group? Talk us through that.
So the foundation course you do on your own, and you take it because fundamentally most people do want to just do it themselves. There's a Facebook group, so there's people in and out that Facebook group all the time of like talking to each other. That it's slowed down a little bit, I think, because it's over Christmas, but if you need to ask questions or anything, you can do that there. I found that the Americans really want to talk about it and the English people don't. They just want to do the course on their own and be left alone to it, which is totally fine. And you can always sort of, as you go through it, I'm always around, right? So, I'm available on Instagram or whatever. You can send me an email once you've joined it and you've got any questions at the end of the course, and just say this and this. But it's self-explanatory, so it's not confusing for people. But yeah, you do it yourself and you take it in your own time and you learn a lot in the process.
Okay. And sorry, how many weeks is it again, the foundation?
Well, it can be, 1 week and you can snap it all up in a week, or you can do it over 6, or you can do it over 12. It's completely up to you. Normally, it's good to keep consistent and just to, to go through it in the timing that you want to. But it can be done in your time. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Right. Okay, that's great. Has anyone got any other questions as we go along? I think we may end up doing a short session today because yeah, we don't have that many questions. No? Okay.
It's nice and quiet today on a nice evening.
It is quiet. It is quiet. I think everyone's in the mood just to listen and not contribute today. But it is quiet, yeah, for sure. Has anyone done any life coaching before on this group? Either had a life coach or have done a course or anything like that? No.
It's a funny one, life coaching, because it's such a weird word, life coaching. It's like, well, what does that even mean? And there's so much more to it than that. It's like, it's just so much more to it, isn't there? It's like you learn so much about yourself. You learn about how to handle your life. You learn about how to manage your thinking. You learn so much. So I've never really thought the word life coach really fits the job. It's a strange one, really. But I would say to anybody, like at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to take control of how you think and how you feel. And if you want to have a more peaceful, comfortable life in your feelings and your emotions, that is totally possible. Totally possible. And when we learn how to use our very brilliant brain in the way that if we go to the gym and we, build our muscles there, we can do the same for our mind. That would be sort of my thing I'd want to say.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, my misconception about the life coach, having a life coach is that you either want to change your behavior or you want to achieve something at the end, rather than and you've blown that up for me a little bit today, because what you're saying is no, you're actually just getting to know you're getting to know yourself, right? And you're peeling that onion to see what's there, and then you're learning to control the thought, so it doesn't take you into a different rush, because once you do that, then you can achieve whatever you want to achieve or change your behavior easily.
Exactly. You've got it, Stella.
Oh, you see, it took me a while, but I got there.
Well
Um, and I mean, do you have people come to you like me saying, I want to do this, this, and this, and you say to them, actually, no, it doesn't work that way.
No, I mean, if someone came to me and said, this is what I want to do, I would say, well, we will get that done, right? Like, we will get that done. And what we have to do first is understand the thinking of what's going on in your mind, so that, you know, for you have not to have got there, like what's keeping you stuck or what's happening there.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because usually people come in with these things that they say, oh, this is the problem. And it's never that. It's like something completely different, which is why I love what I do.
You certainly do. And there's a great accolade for you here on chat from Sabina. It says you've taken her from the darkest places to places of empowerment and strength. So that's that's a lovely accolade. That really is.
Lovely accolade. I think I know this Sabina, the Sabina that's here, and I would say that this Sabina is a, you know, and I can say this, she's an amazing woman, absolutely amazing woman. And I watch her on Instagram and I see her grow and grow and grow. And it makes me so excited and so happy because she chose to do the work, right? Which is amazing.
Right.
So thank you, Sabina. And I send you a lot of love. Is life coaching the same as counseling? No, it's totally different. So life coaching deals more with the problem, the here and the now. And it deals more with sort of what's happening in your head now to help you unravel and get to the spaces that you want to get to. So we work on the mindset, how to change your mindset. We work on you understanding your thoughts and beliefs and all of that kind of stuff. Counseling does do that. It works on thoughts and beliefs. It works also on, it sort of goes back a bit more, well, a lot more into your past and your childhood, hopefully, good therapists do. And understanding, you know, the connections between some of the things you had as, you know, as a child and what you're experiencing as an adult. So this is more sort of now focused, you know, and it gives you your sort of, it gives you, a lot of people come to me and say, I've been seeing a counsellor for years and now I feel like I'm at this point where I can't go any further and I understand myself and now I need to make the changes. And that's the perfect place to come into life coaching. You know, counseling is amazing. I've got a big, you know, I'm a big believer of it. It definitely helped me, you know, for sure. And then there comes a space with that where you want to understand how to put those changes into place, which is, as I say, where counseling comes in.
Right.
Could we have another tip, like the bullet points that we could have, please? Gosh, there's like so many tips. I don't really know which one would be the best one in this space, but I think I would just say to you, the other thing to think about is if you're stuck in your feelings, it's really important to understand that your feelings can change. So again, if you're early into this, which people may be here, you should start to understand the difference between your thoughts and your feelings, which would be another good tip of like asking yourself, is that a thought or is that a feeling? Is that a feeling or is that a thought? And starting to unravel the difference between what's your feeling and what's your thinking. So that's also pretty powerful.
Let me just pick up on that, because that's easier said than done though, isn't it? I think a lot of people would find it quite difficult to determine what a thought is versus a feeling.
Well, exactly. And you see, if you want to get better about understanding yourself, then that is exactly right. And the reason I drop that in is because then if we're like, well, what's the thought and what's the feeling? How much work are we going to do? Are we going to go, oh, well, I don't know, and move on with our lives? Or are we going to say, all right, well, I should probably Google that and try and work out what that is? So there's lots of things that one can do if one wants to do it.
Right. Thank you. So this message from Diane, do people generally get success doing this on their own, or do we need to engage with someone qualified and professional?
It really depends on where you're at. Like if you're ready to sort of get to work, I would say definitely get a professional in. You're going to get where you want to get to faster if you get a professional. But also, I think if you want to dip your toe into it and start to understand this for yourself, then doing it on your own is very successful. It's a bit like saying, you know, we could listen to loads of YouTubes and all of this kind of stuff, which I love doing every night. I'm a big YouTuber of like self-development. And it's like, you can still get a success by listening to that video. You still learn something, you've still grown. And then there's a difference between doing that every night and actually going to talk to somebody. So it depends what you want and where you're at, you know, in your life of what you're looking for.
Right. Okay. Gosh. We've unraveled a lot, I think, today about life coaching and what it is exactly, and thoughts and feelings, and why we should get a life coach, or why we should do the life class. I mean, I think I'm personally quite interested in doing it because I'm finding myself coaching people every day, all the time, on the phone, my family, my friends, my team, sometimes our clients. And I'm like, actually, I'm not really in a position to coach people because I don't really know what I'm talking about with this stuff. But, you know, you kind of go intuitively, but I feel like I'm not unique in that scenario. So many women in particular do that, kind of take on that role, you know, where we're trying to help people in their particular predicament in their lives, you know. And so as you say, it heightens your emotional intelligence, you know, it really boosts that. And I think when you can start really tapping into your own emotional intelligence and feeling into other people, it only, you know, it helps them, but it also helps you. Do you agree?
I do agree. And I think, you know, again, that's another thing, like a coach is not going to do. I'm not going to tell anyone what they should and shouldn't do because it's not my job. And I'm not helping someone by saying to them, oh, you should definitely do this, or you should definitely do that. It's my job as a coach to teach them how they think, and that you know, you're handing the baton back to them to take responsibility and learn about that. And you should do it, Stella, and you should definitely do the certified course, because you're in the perfect position to do that, because people are coming to you and talking to you and you want to be able to help. So taking that course is like a perfect thing to do, because so many people, you can help so many people by learning how to do it, basically.
Yeah. It's interesting. Okay, lots of comments now as we're getting to the end. It's always easier when it's someone else, not you. Very true, Mary. Life coaching is a rare time when you are listened to from a neutral point of view. That is so true too. A lot of wisdom. Okay. Expense it, Stella. Yeah. I think I will, Mary. I think I will. Oh, okay. On Strictly. Were you on Strictly?
I don't know what this person is saying.
I don't know. You were on Strictly. Were you on Strictly Come Dancing?
I was not.
No, you weren't. Okay.
Not last Saturday.
Not last Saturday. Were you? Rosie saw you. Rosie caught you on there. Were you on it? Were you on it recently?
I've been caught. Not recently, no.
Okay. Rosie, maybe it was a Jacqueline lookalike. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. I think we're actually, Deborah, this is interesting. I help my daughter and my friends, but at the moment I'm in a troubled place, but I'm too embarrassed to admit it to my friends. I mean, there's that too, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's a shame, because her friends would want to know. And if it was her friends in that position, you know, her friends would no doubt talk to her, I would hope. And so if she wants to be a good friend as well and connect with people on a deeper level, it's really important to share that with your friends who love you in the way that you would want them to do that with you.
That's the vulnerability aspect of it, isn't it? Like to show a little bit of vulnerability around that and reach out. But I think sometimes if you're the person, I kind of understand, Deborah, because sometimes if you're the person that everyone comes to all the time for advice or help, you end up taking that role. it's almost like a little bit of a matriarchal role, you know, you take it on, but then you stop, you stop, I guess, respecting your own feelings and your own, your own issues, because you don't want to be seen to not being able to help people, you know.
But that's a whole other topic of conversation.
Yeah, no, it is
about you know, ego and humility and all of this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. But I'm just empathizing because I understand what you mean. Okay, good. I think we've had a really nice chat. I shared the details about the live class on the event page, so it's liveclass.com, right?
Liveclass.com, that's exactly right.
Yeah, so you can find details on that, and if anyone wants to engage you, they can by going to JacquelineHurst.com.
Yeah, that's me.
That's JacquelineHurst.com.
Thanks for everyone coming. It's really so nice to have this. Thank you, and thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being with us, and yeah, thank you to everyone for coming too. But I feel like it's been a really worthwhile topic, and we've almost demystified it a little bit, because there is a little bit of mysticism around life coaching and what is it and what do I get out there and is it for me or is it not for me. And then I would highly recommend, Rosie's not giving up. I would highly recommend that you follow Jacqueline also on social media, on Instagram, because she hits you with daily pearls of wisdom. So it's really worth following her. Okay, we'll we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Bella.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Have a wonderful Christmas, everyone, and a happy New Year. This is our last session of the year, and I'll be in touch about January. But in the meantime, have a very lovely Christmas and a happy New Year, and we'll speak to you all then. Okay, thank you so much, Jacqueline.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Happy Christmas, everybody. New Year. Happy holidays. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.